So you probably did not find me by accident, so let me start simple. This is me. So I would say my journey started when I was a fat 10-year-old kid, built like a beach ball and a pear. So my mom was a huge fitness nut, and she wanted to make sure everybody in her life was always in shape, eating the right things, and constantly moving around. And when I was around 10, she eventually just said, go out inside and walk a mile, don't come back in the house until you're done. And that usually happened every time she saw me on the couch. So pretty much every time she saw me, I hated it because it was like, come on, you're just doing it to keep me busy, even though you just don't want me seeing, even though you just don't like me on the couch. And then eventually I began to appreciate the concept of staying physically fit. So, that 1 mile I had to do every time mom saw me eventually turned into lifting basic weights at, clubhouse gyms, then the Planet Fitness type of gyms, and then eventually the real weight rooms, football racks, chalk, iron plates. So I played offensive line for most of my brief football career, from the little pee-wee football all the way up to high school. So I kind of had to stay big. And eventually, as people who play football and especially offense and defensive line know, the goal wasn't to really look good. It was to hold the line, literally. It was kind of weird knowing that I had the strength and would eventually be building more strength, but it physically did not show like the pretty boy quarterbacks and wide receivers. But football did build that discipline, but also kind of held me back from chasing what I really wanted, which was good aesthetics, confidence, and control. So eventually my senior year came around, football ended, and then I finally got to ask, what do I want to look like, feel like, and live like? And that's when I learned that appearance actually matters, not for vanity and all the what matters on the outside, but for the overall self-respect. The way you take care of yourself says something. It's a form of nonverbal communication. And once you start treating yourself with that kind of respect, it seeps out into everything else in your life. How you think, how you speak, and just how you handle life. So, the gym just happened to be the first place. I slowly learned that. I won't say grand things and say it just clicked. No, it took several weeks, months, a few years for that concept to click. But what really taught me was how to build things. I am an engineer by trade, so this mentality does apply to me, like how to build things, systems, habits, routines, and confidence. Whether that's a body, a mindset, or a whole life, the process is the same: pressure, feedback, adjustment. Some days I feel like I could move mountains, and then some days I feel like it's all I can do to just keep the lights on. But I still show up. That's what growth to me actually looks like. Not linear, certainly not glamorous, just consistent, day by day. Now, I see myself less as a fitness guy and more as someone who is obsessed with development, mind, body, and everything in between. I think being tall gave me perspective on leverage, both physically and mentally. You can learn to make small changes that can give big returns. You learn that discomfort isn't really punishment, it's information. And that is kind of what I would like this channel to be about. Yes, fitness is a part of it, where it started. It's a huge cornerstone. But eventually, I hope for it to be bigger than that. This space is about progress in every direction, about thinking deeper, moving better, and living sharper. About questioning what self-improvement actually means instead of just repeating what everyone else says and does. That's something I hate. So if you watch this later on down the line, I hope you see that this was never really about the gym. It was about learning how to build yourself 1 mile, one lift, one thought at a time. We crawl before we walk before we run, and run before we fly. I'm somewhere in that takeoff, and that's exactly where I want to be. So, this is me. past that shaped me, the present I'm learning through, and the future I'm creating. Welcome to the channel.